Boom. And we are live with another episode of the Brown Water Banter podcast. My name is Jared Seymour.
My name is Joey Cates.
It is Joey Cates, and we're coming to you virtual for another episode of Brown Water here in the Summer Safety Series, I want to call it. We have Mikkel on the show from ACR Artex. This is the company that made the personal locating device that we talked about a couple episodes back, Joey, with the golden son, golden child.
Golden Child. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The crew that sank in the Gulf of Mexico and was saved because they had one of those personal locator beacons on board the boat. So it's another safety episode, and we got the guys that manufacture the stuff. So it's going to be a good one. So stick around and tune in. So before we do that, like we always do, though, we are going to thank the people that keep the lights on over here at the Brownwater Studios. Right out of the gate, Dr. Robbie Williams over at Southern Magnolia Smiles, man. If you're looking for a great local dentist, they're located on Washington Avenue, right over here in Ocean Springs. You can look them up on the socials at Southern Magnolia Smiles on Facebook and Instagram. And when you're ready to book that appointment, just give them a shout at 228-215-1202. If you find yourself in need for legal representation, Taylor and Cox Law Firm has been practicing law on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for over 30 years. They specialize in felonies, misdemeanors, DUI, family law, divorce, child custody, you name it. If you need someone that's going to fight tooth and nail for you, just give Taylor and Cox a call at 228-696-0111 and tell them that we sent you. Rocky over at Cedar Swamp, man. He's got 2 locations on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, one in Goshen and one in Gulfport. He's got all of your tackle and apparel needs covered. You can look him up on Facebook, C, the number 2, and then Swamp. And he's got kayaks, rods, reels, brown water gear, you name it, man. His store's busting at the seams. It's that time of year to get back out on the water and make sure your gear's right. So go check him out, Cedar Swamp. Kendrick over at Forever Young Men and Women's Health. It's time to get back into the gym, get that summer beach bod ready. You're really already behind the 8 ball, but Kendrick can bring you up to snuff. If you go over there, check him out on Facebook, Forever Young Men and Women's Health. They specialize in hormone replacement therapy for both men and women, testosterone replacement therapy, to be more specific. Go get some lab work done. See if you're deficient in any of the areas, vitamins, hormones, whatever. Kendrick can get you back on track, man. So give him a shout and book a consultation with him. Go check him out. He's a really cool guy. We had him on the show. You'll enjoy talking health and fitness with him. Just give him a shout at 228-363-6623. And then Dewey Bugs, man. Check them out on Facebook as well. They're located in D'Iberville, right across the street from the Scarlet Pearl. They are slanging the boiled seafood like nobody else. If you haven't been yet, go check them out. You won't be disappointed. Go check out that Maverick platter because it's legit.
Yep.
And so I think I beat you again.
We got the app. Yeah, we got the app sponsor, Modern Recoil. Go check them
which
out.
Was the last episode that we did, which was a really good episode. That was a safety episode as well, talking tourniquets, AEDs. So if you haven't checked that out, go do it. But let's go ahead and bring Mikkel in here. Again, he's from ACR Artex. We're going to get all the backstory on that. Let's bring him in. Mikkel, how you doing, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, man. Thank you for joining us here this evening. We were giving kind of the backstory as we opened up the show. The guys on the Golden Child, I hope I'm getting that right, Golden Child.
Yeah,
Easton was on the show. We all read the article, saw the news reporting on that. Boat sank super quick. They go down. Luckily, one of the guys on the boat, his girlfriend, suggested that he bring the personal locator device, which I didn't even really understand the difference between that and the e-perps, which I'm sure we'll get into here. But luckily, they had one on them. And man, to hear their story, to have one of those on the boat and still have to spend 4 hours in the water is eye-opening, to say the least. So we heard those guys' story. We're like, we got to get y'all on the show to kind of. I know you can probably break down the specifics better than they can, better than we can. So we want to dive into all of that. But first, if you could tell us how you're affiliated with the company, how long you've been with them, kind of your backstory.
Yeah. So like you said, my name is Mikkel D'Arcangelo. I'm the vice president of global marketing, product management, and customer service here at ACR Electronics. I've been here 21 years. So
wow.
I've seen a lot in the days. Some great stories like this, some really tragedies that really brought the need for EPIRBs into the limelight. But excited to be here because finally it's a good story, great outcome. You don't get a lot of these, and the boys have been great about really spreading the word and all the efforts they're doing, I have no doubt someday will save someone else's life tenfold.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, it was a tragic story that had a great outcome. And I know just from our little world over here on the internet, we said, like we said, we're from Biloxi, Mississippi. So, we cover, Bay St. Louis all the way to Pascagoula. We got some Mobile fans and into Louisiana as well. But I know a lot of people that were like, oh, wow, my safety game is nowhere really what it needs to be, myself included.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all too common. It's look at all the gear required by Coast Guard. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But none of that gear really tells anybody that you need help. Flares are probably the closest, but you need to be, in distress and have a boat in the water just to even get their attention with the flare. It's still not like any kind of alerting. So, and Coast Guard's awesome. They're always trying to, tell people about these beacons and pump them out. But, ultimately at the end of the day, I think, either you've got to hear a story like this, you got to know a friend that, something happened to, you kind of almost have to get scared straight a little bit to kind of up your safety game at one point.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little about the company, ACR. What does it say? What does it stand for? How did it come about and all that stuff?
Yeah, so ACR has been around for since 1956. It was founded by this gentleman, David Rush. The ACR actually stands for Air Sea Rescue. I guess at the time ASR was taken, so he just used C as an easy way of kind of getting that across. But he used to be a pilot for Pan Am and actually had a crash where none of his safety gear really worked. Luckily, he was able to walk away and be rescued. But after that, that's where he kind of got the idea of like starting a company. Wasn't sure, he originally went to cameras. So our first claim to fame was he actually built the camera and strobe light system that took some of the very first images of Earth.
Really?
Off of some of the rockets that NASA was launching.
Wow.
And then he kind of used the flash technology from the cameras to build some of the very first like rescue strobe lights. Just something as powerful as a strobe light being a safety tool was really one of our first products. And then besides the boys in your area now, our probably most famous rescue or part of the rescue was on the Apollo 13 mission. If you ever seen or know the story, seen the movie, in the movie Tom Hanks kind of holds a pen light in his mouth while he's taking instructions from Houston. That pen light was made by ACR Electronics. We used to make those pen lights for all the astronauts on all the Apollo missions. So,
wow.
Happy to be a small part of that. Like they wrote us a really awesome letter back in the day, thanking us for, a product that works great. And that's kind of always been a little bit of like the DNA of this company. We make quality products knowing they're used to save lives. So we used to get into military UHF radios and stuff during Vietnam and whatnot, and then eventually just kind of as technology grew and different satellites came on board, the COSPAS-R satellites came out with the search and rescue frequency on 406 megahertz and 121.5 megahertz that was just dedicated for search and rescue. And that's really been our main niche ever since. We make the small personal ones for yourself, the EPIRBs, for the boat, but then also on all aircraft, they've got the exact same technology. They're called ELTs or emergency locator transmitters. Some people confuse them with the black boxes. They're not, but if a plane was to accidentally crash or, it's the exact same technology that's in an EPIRB, that's in a personal locator beacon, and that's on all the Boeing aircraft and Airbus, all the way down to your bug smashers and seaplanes and all that. So that's a little bit about our history. We've kind of moved a little bit into some Iridium satellite tracking devices, doing more E-flares and ditch kits and whatnot. But, that's kind of the company as a whole. It's based here in Fort Lauderdale. We do the majority of all of our manufacturing, right here, just down the hall. We print our own circuit boards. We put them through the paces. We've got our own test lab here that we can, freeze product and then heat it. We got salt fog chambers. We got some crazy stuff in that room that, because we make a product that has to has to work the first time every time, and you might never test it, so it's got to be foolproof. So we really pride ourselves on all of that.
So good old American made stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, like I said, until this story, the name was new to me. ACR Artex, I had never heard of it, and had heard of other brands that are, I guess, more common to our area. I don't know, but with a backstory like that's pretty killer. Like y'all didn't just show up yesterday.
No, not at all. And like we've actually got like a sister brand. This is the Ocean Signal EPIRB. ACR acquired them. Gosh, I don't even know. Like 10 years ago. Feels like forever ago because they're just part of the family. And they're the number one brand in the UK and Europe.
Okay.
And over here in the US, we're the number one brand, and they kind of come along for the ride as well. But it's nice to be able to share that technology, that brain trust, and we both got the same passion in life, so it's just a natural fit to join forces.
Yeah, I think people get confused a lot with the EPIRB and the beacon, all that stuff. Can you dive in and dissect that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so it really kind of depends on it all kind of starts with the satellite system, right? So like in this case, the boys were using this personal locator beacon. It's just a one-way device. Press the on button when you need help, and hang on. The nice thing with all of these cost-best SARSAT beacons, and one of the main draws to them is, I think, in our world and everything right now, like we've got subscriptions for subscriptions, and are they, which ones have expired, which ones are good, with EPIRBs and personal locator beacons, there's no subscription involved, right? So you buy the beacon, and your only real area of responsibility is you got to register it. So in this case, their girlfriend, Sarah, her dad bought her the beacon. She was smart enough to register it. That's why I love selling products to women. They just get the safety thing. They get it a lot better than we do, right?
Because we went through it in the boat, or threw it in the closet and forgot about it. Yeah.
Exactly. So she was smart. She did everything right. She registered it, put her emergency contacts on there. And that's all you have to do, honestly. And every 2 years, you got to update that registration. No big deal. It takes 5 minutes online. But then at any point, because it's not like it doesn't have a rechargeable battery. It's got a 5-year dedicated lithium battery in there. So realistically, you can test it once a month, but it should just work. So there's EPIRBs, there's personal locator beacons, and there's EPIRBs.
Yeah.
The difference really is, an EPIRB is designed for the user. It's small, going to be worn. We want you to wear it. You can mount it still inside of a life jacket. It's small enough to fit inside most inflatables. It does come with like an oral inflation clip that you can snap it on. With our personal locator beacons, they're a little bit, they're still really small, but they're a little bit bigger because we wanted to have a little bit of extra space for some air in there. So they're buoyant. All right. But they're not buoyant in like a position like where an EPIRBs just float in the water and you let them do their thing. Right. With, like you saw in the video with the guys, they had it up and out of the water, out of their hand. That's perfect. That's exactly what you got to do. And luckily, those guys are wearing life jackets. Imagine how difficult that would be not wearing a life jacket, now keeping this beacon up and out of the water. It'll float. So if they were to drop that beacon when they were, in the melee, it'll just float. It'll be right there so you can grab it. But it'll float like in a non-transmitting to satellite kind of view. The antenna will be facing the ground as it's floating. So, you just want to kind of keep it up and out of the way.
Antenna pointing up.
And just antenna pointing to the sky, just most important thing. But it's a one-handed manual activation. The personal locator beacons will work for a minimum of 24 hours. And that's at a -4 degree Fahrenheit temperature that test is run. So, at 80 degrees in Biloxi, you're going to get quite a few extra hours out of that, but from a marketing standpoint, I have to say it works for a minimum of 24 hours at -4 degrees. So luckily, being from the South, we really don't have to worry about those temperatures.
No, it's 80 degrees by 8 o'clock.
What does it do at 100 degrees? That's what I'm more concerned about, because that's what the hell it is down here.
Yeah. So with the personal locator beacons, it's the same technology. These are designed to work for a minimum of 48 hours.
Okay.
And really the beauty behind these,
Wait,
they come in two different
that's
brackets.
the personal locator, or that's the EPIRB?
This is the EPIRB,
Part-
right?
yeah.
Okay.
So you can see there's a substantial size difference between the two.
Right.
A lot of that is battery pack, so 24 hours, 48 hours minimum. And this actually works better floating in the water. I tell everyone just, they're underneath this black flap. There's a lanyard, tie it to your life jacket, just let it float in the water. No one will ever do that. They're just, they hug it to death, and I get it. I would probably do the same thing too. So the EPIRB, they come in two different flavors. One is with a manual bracket. So you just mount it in your center console. You can actually just leave it in a ditch bag, just mount it inside the cabin, just someplace quick and easy where if you're going to abandon ship, like, yep, I saw the EPIRB, go get it. On a boat that's a bit bigger, I don't recommend them necessarily on like a center console or anything like that. We do have an automatic bracket. So big old white bracket just mounted on the outside of the boat. And then inside it's got this hydrostatic release. So the beacon just sits in here. If your boat was to go down in a depth of about 4 to 10 feet, this hydrostatic release will see that it's underwater, the pressure change, and it'll just kind of pop off and eject the beacon up and out of the water.
Yeah,
And then
so you don't have to hold it at all.
Nope.
It's just going up with the boat. Yeah.
That is it. And so when an EPIRB is out of the bracket and wet, it'll automatically turn on right on the faceplate. Underneath the faceplate here, there's 2 water sensors. So once it gets in contact with that, here goes the rescue. Those are kind of the main differences. There's some other technology that's come out lately. We've got one called Return Link Service. And so we've just been updating all the software in a lot of these, and it makes these beacons now a sort of a two-way, right? When search and rescue sees your rescue now, they'll actually, if you have a return link beacon, enabled beacon, it'll actually interrogate the GPS or GNSS receiver in here, and we let you know with the blue light or the digital display that your rescue has been confirmed.
Wow.
Okay.
They've seen your rescue. They're working on it. Which it seems real simple, but these are one-way devices. Realistically, you're not paying subscription for two-way text messaging or anything like that with some of the other products. So that confirmation back, it can be life-changing, right? I think
huge. Yeah.
And
in talking with Easton a little bit and some of the other survivors, I can tell you, most people hate us for the longest time. Like as they turn that beacon on, and they're just sitting in the water with nothing to do, and they're like, it's been 10 minutes. Where's this helicopter?
Right.
Picture on the box. There should be a helicopter here. I think people get a little irrational and think, well, okay, they've got to get a boat to wherever it took me 3 hours to get here. Now they've got to come all the way out here. So there could be that 3-hour gap of them just driving to me. You could be lucky enough to get a helicopter, but it's still probably they got to fill it. They got to get a crew prepped. They got to get it in the air. It's still an hour, 2 hours to wherever you are. So I think survivors have always said they have a lot of time to kind of hate on us, thinking, man, this thing, it's not working, until all of a second, like, boom, there's someone there.
Right.
And then they're like, well, this was the best insurance policy I ever bought.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of funny that everyone kind of has that same emotional response as they're processing through their own rescues. And we hear it over and over again. So, been here long enough to well aware that a lot of people hate it at first. Wish they had that two-way. So that's where that return link service really comes in handy to say, okay, calm down. Someone's received my message.
Yeah. That to me would be everything. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's where Easton and them were. I think they had maybe an older model of y'all's, and they didn't know if it was received or not. And then the Coast Guard kept passing them up, and then they kept turning them on and off, which you're not supposed to do, but they didn't know any different. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Sarah was awesome, and she lent them that beacon, and she did everything she needed to do. Yeah, would it have been great if they had read the manual and kind of understood a little bit? Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
It worked out in the end. Yeah, Easton did talk to me about turning the beacon on and off, and I think this is one of those areas where people got to realize, so the way it all kind of works, right? The signal goes up to the satellite comes back to a ground station in Maryland, at NOAA. They're like, cool, here's the registration, belongs to this girl Sarah. We're going to call Sarah and see what's up. Meanwhile, we can see this beacon's going off, in the Gulf of Mexico, so let's get this to Coast Guard. And that way Coast Guard can start that rescue. So now they're on the phone with Sarah saying, hey, we see your beacons going off out here. Is this a false alarm? Because now we're obviously talking to you. So she was able to then, relay all that information of who they're with and all that. And she's like, no, they wouldn't have just turned that on. But I mean, that whole process can be like in as little as 3 to 5 minutes. Like it's very, very quickly. Like we're talking seconds for that satellite signal to come back down. And so once Coast Guard gets the coordinates, they get confirmation that this isn't a false alarm. They're trying to figure out the closest assets to that, and obviously they had a small boat in the area that they called upon. You figure that small boat is getting, here's the coordinates of where the beacon went off, and so the beacon it's the way it's designed and the way the regulations are. We turn the GPS on, we get the coordinates, we send those coordinates for about 20 minutes. Then we turn the GPS back on, download more, your updated ones. That way you can kind of float, drift, all of that. A lot of times Coast Guards, here's the coordinates. They go out to that one, and now they're far away from base.
2 miles,
and,
3 miles away.
And they'll have the direction finding equipment and stuff, but like, those 3 foot, 4 foot waves can just blind, a small boat like that at a short range and stuff. So, it takes a little bit of time to actually, get there. And so by turning that beacon off and turning it on, they really did themselves more harm than good, because every time you turn it off and then you turn it back on, one of the safety functions in it to prevent like a false alarm is it's not going to send that transmission for 52 seconds after you turn it on. So that way, if you did press it and by accident, you've got a little bit of time to quickly turn that off and hopefully not have to explain to an Air Forceman why your beacon just went off real quick. So, they're delaying that. And then you've got to reacquire your GPS, transmit that again. So, once you've got one of these beacons, just leave them on. You see the strobe light popping, awesome, it's working. You see the red and green lights flashing, it's working. Just try to be patient. And I know that's probably like impossible thing to do at that point.
Well, it creates a little breadcrumb trail, right? So everywhere you go and pop, every time it goes up, it's going to follow you around.
Exactly. Like every 52 seconds, it's sending another distress to those satellites, which is coming back to Earth with your GPS coordinates. And so while, yes, it does create a bit of a breadcrumb trail, that's also for everyone in the command center, right? So now there's a small boat, 2 hours offshore, and they're trying to, get the coordinates from mission control, and they're just trying to do searches on their own. They're getting out there to the coordinates and looking around and starting to do grid patterns and stuff. So, it's organized chaos in an event like this. But then those waves don't help at all. It doesn't seem, 3-4 footers don't seem like a lot until you're in them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was a wild story, and like I say, pointed out a lot of different holes, and I think a lot of people's game, and one of those being is like, those guys were saved by that personal locator beacon, but even still had trouble having the Coast Guard see them because of those waves, like you said, to the point to where they credit it to the igloo ice chest that they stood up on, on its end to be able to be noticed.
Yeah. No, exactly. There's some other new technology. We've got some other personal locator beacons and EPIRBs now that I don't know if you guys are a little more familiar with AIS, automatic identification system. It's a short range VHF frequency. All commercial ships are required to have AIS, and it kind of will turn your chart plotter into like a dynamic chart plotter. You can see all the other vessels that are operating this AIS system, and and their heading. It's, one, it was kind of developed for, collision avoidance at sea. The main point was after 9/11, wanting to make sure that, a terrorist couldn't, take over a barge, drive it straight into New York Harbor and just,
Right.
explode it. So it's got a lot of other benefits where Coast Guard can see where that boat came from, just critical search and rescue information as Coast Guard's about to board that boat, where it came from, what cargo it's got, all of that. So it keeps Border Patrol a whole lot safer. But it's like it's roughly, a 2-3 mile range. And so now we've got like a personal locator beacon that same technology as the one that Easton and the boys used. But this also includes an AIS signal. So now local boats that are in that area, because I think at one point they had a couple of boats in the area and that they could see and they just couldn't get. Had they had the AIS signal going on one of these beacons, like when Coast Guard was like within a mile of them, like it would have just been a straight shot to them. Because they would have pulled it right up on their chart plotter. The EPIRBs now, like all the commercial EPIRBs, are required to have that AIS signal as one of those homing frequencies. You think of, they're lucky to be in the Gulf, and, search and rescue is, just a couple hour adventure away. On the east coast of Florida here, and, the big sailing race, the Newport to Bermuda race is going on right now. Like, you have a problem on your way to Bermuda, like,
good luck.
You're not landing a you can't get a helicopter out there. You're not landing a plane out there. Like, you're at the mercy of a system called AMBERS, where Coast Guard will call a commercial boat to your rescue because they're probably the closest one to you. And so they'll use that AIS signal now to pinpoint that rescue. And at that point, that commercial boat rescues you, and you're going wherever that cargo is going. So it's,
you're along for the ride. Then.
Yeah, we've had some interesting survivors where it took them a couple of weeks to get home because they had no passport, they had no credit cards. It all went down with the boats, and it's a real stressful ordeal.
It's better than going down with the boat, though.
Yeah, that's wild. I bet you have heard some stories in your 20 years with the company, right? Like this is our first time. I mean, I've heard of some people almost sinking, and I've heard of some people getting rescued.
Yeah.
But I mean, to actually go down and spend time in the water and then meet Easton and the guys, this is the closest it's ever hit home for me.
Yeah, I've heard some stories. I mean, I've got 4 survivors that have hit whales. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just didn't know that was a thing. First one, I was kind of like, well, that sounds a little fishy, and then all of a sudden another one and another one. And kind of funny enough, like I've actually hooked a lot of these guys up to talk to one another because each of them had a hard time with their insurance company trying to like get the settlements and stuff. So I was like, talk to them. Like, they've already been through this. I can't help you much.
They hit a whale that sunk the boat.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. They're all sailboats. All 4 of them were sailboats that hit whales. And just, I think 3 of the boats sank. The other one, the guy they had to abandon it though.
Oh, wow.
Could you imagine trying to explain that to your insurance company?
That's why I hooked them up together, because I'm like, maybe if they've heard of someone else that's done this, it's going to help your case along. I think one of the things with these beacons is everyone thinks it's just like a boat's going to sink. But I can't tell you how many like medical evacuations we've had where like, I can think of this guy last year. His dad fell on the boat, fell hard onto the hard seat, and he was like, couldn't breathe. So literally turned the EPIRB on because they were like 50 miles offshore. And he was like, I need help now. And literally the dad had punctured his lung when he fell. Wow. And so he was able to get medevaced, helicoptered off the boat, get to the hospital a lot faster, ultimately, kind of saved his life that way. So it's not just something's wrong with the boat. I mean, it's a lot of times it can be a medical emergency. So we always kind of, with these beacons and the registration piece of it, the registration's free. There's a field on there for like additional information. I always tell everyone, like, put your own medical information in there. You're diabetic, like say it in the additional information. You might just be forgotten your insulin and, might be having a diabetic attack. And boy, wouldn't it be great if Coast Guard knew he said he's a diabetic. Maybe just grab some of that insulin before we jump in the chopper and head out. little things like that can, that's how you save your own life, right? Your
Right.
part of the rescue is done when you buy the beacon, but more importantly, when you register the beacon, that's your part in your own rescue. So, unfortunately, like 20% of people just forget to rescue it. I would probably say out of those 20%, 100% of them are men. And so, we're just lazy when it comes to that stuff. We don't read manuals, we forget to register things. And so by not registering it, you kind of delay your own rescue, because they're like, is this a false alarm? Are we really going to put 5 coasties' lives in danger in these 5 to 6 foot seas? This stuff never happens on the best days. It's a lot
Right.
of times it's a storm and stuff. So they got to think of their own assets they're putting out there. So yeah, it's kind of scary. So you got to make sure you do that part.
Yeah.
What is
100%.
you mentioned something else that I hadn't thought of with the not necessarily being the boat sinking or engines not working, it being a
Yeah.
medical emergency. How does that work? I'm assuming in that situation you'd still have your UHF to where if you crack that signal off, you could be in communication with the Coast Guard. Like how does that work?
I mean, absolutely. We tell everyone, like, our beacons are like your best last chance, right? If you got cell phone, you got, VHF, whatever you've got, use it. After the Titanic sank, they came out with these SOLAS regulations for all the boating industry, mostly on the commercial side. But the basic rule is use whatever you have, and you're not going to get in trouble for trying to save your own life with whatever you have on board.
Right.
Right.
And so, a lot of times, I think on that medical emergency, like the guy was able to call Coast Guard, but actually saying where he is,
Right. Right.
I mean, I'm 50
I'm in the
miles
water.
offshore. Yeah.
I'm in the water. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. So the Coast Guard in that instance had actually said, do you have a NEPIRB? And he's like, I have a PLB, or personal locator beacon. They said, perfect. Just turn that on for us. And like, bam, that narrows the gap to 100 meters. Perfect. And that's exactly how they went and rescued him, just by telling him, just turn it on. But in the meantime, he's able to talk with them. He's able to give them more information. And as they get closer, using his VHF to talk to the helicopter, invaluable, right?
Right.
A lot of times with Coast Guard, especially if they're flying a plane or whatever and they can't land, they'll drop like a barrel to a survivor in the water. They'll have like extra life jackets, but it'll have a VHF inside that barrel. That way the crew can talk to the survivor in the water, which is another genius move by Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned your war room. Do y'all see everything when it comes from your device? You see everything that comes in, correct?
We actually do not.
Okay.
It's the COSPESR is that satellite system. It's really made up of the United States, Canada, France, and Russia. They kind of created this, and every country signs up. So, when I say the war room, I'm talking about like the Coast Guard war room.
Okay.
Like I've had the privilege of going to the District 7 in Miami and seeing their war room. And I mean, there's just TVs all over, and you can actively see like a beacon pinging, every 52 seconds. And there's cameras just filming everything. It's quite the operation they run. So yeah, my hat's off to those guys. Like they're a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Do you know on your end, and I would assume, specifically for your company, how many of your beacons go off a year?
I know.
Ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, last year I believe there was 350 people rescued just in the U.S. So land, most of it was on sea. I think it was like 250 on sea, 60 or 70 on land, and like 30 or so people from airplanes. And usually that 300 to 350 mark is on average just in the U.S. And I would say in the U.S. we've got a fairly sizable market share. So I would say, more than 3/4 of them are going to be our rescues.
Right.
And it's awesome because they write into the website. They find us somehow. We have them knock on the door every now and then, and they're just like, "Hey, I'm here."
Hey, yeah.
It's funny. In this case, I had just come back from a trip to Nassau with my family in the Bahamas, and on Memorial Day weekend, and I was just kind of looking at looking at the website and stuff, and I was like, "Boy, the sales seem like they've really taken a little jump the last 2 days." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And like 10 minutes after I was just kind of like pondering, like, I haven't heard anything, but I've been in the Bahamas too. Like, we weren't watching the news. And within like 5 minutes of that, like, I had 3 people looking at my email send me this video of Easton and the boys in the water. And I was like, no, it can't be. Can it? And so like 5 minutes later, I was like pinged Easton I found him on LinkedIn. I gave him my number. I mean, and sure enough, there goes my phone blowing up, some Biloxi phone number. And I'm like, it's never this easy. It's never this easy to get a hold of a survivor. Like, usually they're a little squirrely. A lot of times they're embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it. And he was just like, let me tell you something. And it was awesome. Yeah. So it was really awesome. But it's kind of funny just to kind of have that correlation, be like, what's happening here? Something's different today.
Yeah, it definitely, and like in our little neck of the woods, like I'm saying, like it sent some shockwaves, through the community, just to be like, damn, everybody thinks life jackets and things like you said with the Coast Guard mandates with the throwable and the flares and all that, but like that's good, but it ain't really enough, right? It ain't gonna save you if you're in the water to get found quickly.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think still my favorite part of the story, because 20 years here. I mean, I've done the Miami Boat Show for 20 years in a row. My wife knows there's no Valentine's dinner because I'm working that boat show right over Valentine's week, and all these other boat shows that I've worked. And we've got a big booth right next to Garmin and a lot of those other guys, and people walk in and they're like, what are these things again? Nah.
Right.
So I buy it and I hope I never use it. That doesn't, and I can see him glazing over and like, ooh, fishing poles. I can see him looking behind me like, ooh, and the new stereo for the boat, that looks great. And it's like, it's frustrating because you're like, oh God, you're the guy that needs it. Like, I can tell. You're on your 12th beer and it's only like 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, I need you to listen to me.
Yes.
But it's like, honestly, like when they come in to the booth and it's, they've got their wife or they've got their kid. I mean, it's like, man, perfect. Like, I know that they're going to listen. Like, I know that they're just, that safety conscious mom mentality, that mama bear. Like, I mean, these wives just are locked in. So like it's not a sales pitch. But I do genuinely tell like all of my friends, I'm like, just if you get one of these, like, you'll be able to go fishing more. Just tell your wife what it is. Tell her what it does. It's like an insurance policy. Like, she's going to feel better with the kids out on the boat. It's peace of mind for everyone at home, and when everyone at home is happy and got peace of mind, like, they're going to let you go out more. And it's funny, like, I've got a few friends that are like, yeah, 100%. Like, she's cool. Like, I had to bring both kids out now. Before she was, a little anxious about that. So,
we
peace of
talked
mind
about
goes a long way.
We talked about on our show when we had them on. It was like we go out and spend $200,000-$300,000 on boats, fishing equipment, everything else, but we won't spend $800-$900 on a beacon that could save our lives. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we had this awesome VP of HR who'd always he was a Southern boy from Kentucky. Loved to work these boat shows, and the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show, the yachting capital of the world. I remember like his very first boat show, and I stole the line ever since. He was talking to one of these captains, and he was really getting haggled down on an EPIRB. The guy was really doing everything he could on getting the price down. And our VP was just like, I bet you have a bottle of whiskey on your yacht that costs more than this beacon, don't you? And the guy was 100%. Like, well, yeah, I do. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Stop. Just stop. He's like, it's going to save your life. Like, just stop. Like, and it's true. A lot of times you think of some of the things you spend money on, you're like, yeah, cool. Glad you haven't stuff. But I mean, talk to Ethan and those boys. Like, there's nothing. I heard him talking about, those $1,000 waiters that were floating away. And I was $300-$400 for one of these beacons. Not a bad deal at that point. So
right. There's no doubt about that. I was thinking too, going back to the EPIRB personal locator kind of comparison there. And you had both of them with you. There isn't any difference in transmission, meaning we're still using the same satellite and we still have the same effective range. I mean, you're not. There's no diminish there.
Not at all. Nope. Okay. It's really how long they're going to work, and the kind of the activation piece. It's same with the one with the airplanes. The airplane one will last 12 hours, and then it will transmit for another 48 hours on a homing frequency. But that one's that one's turned on by either the cockpit switch or it's called the G switch. It senses a sudden stop, so a crash.
Right.
So it's, I always tell everyone, if you're a boater that just goes out by themselves, you're a PLB guy. Like, you need it on you. You fall off that boat and that beacon's still on the boat, that's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. Ideally, you want one for the boat and one for the crew. That's the best case scenario. But God, just have something. I mean, there's been too many of these stories. We all remember, what, about 15 years ago, the NFL players in the Gulf, right?
Yep. Miami. They were in Miami, weren't they? Yeah.
No, it was on the West Coast. They were off the coast of Tampa and there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right,
I think I was like 4 or 5 years into this job, and that was the first one where I was like, hated coming to work that week, because why didn't they know about it?
Yeah.
As far as a marketing guy who's in charge of messaging, like, I didn't get it to them. I didn't get the message to them. And there's been a few other cases, some that are really personal to me that I don't like talking about even to this day, because it's still like, it's my job. I got to get the message out there. I'm happy to stay late and talk about them till the cow comes home, just to get, save one extra person's life, so.
But this is not the only things that your company offers. Y'all do flares, you do two-way messages, you do all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, we do. We do searchlights for the boats. We've got like this RCL 100. That's the main searchlight in the whole marine industry. We do electronic flares. So this combined with the flag means you don't have to have those pesky expiring pyrotechnic flares anymore.
Mm-hmm.
For years, and talk to any Coast Guard guy. They'll be like, a strobe light is an invaluable piece, especially if, like, it's easier for them to find you at night with a strobe light than anytime during the day with bright clothing on. And then we do like we just mentioned, we do a two-way satellite communicators. So it's called like the Bivy stick. This is our new version. It's called the Mesh. And they work through the Iridium satellites. So for decades, we've just been pushing these one-way beacons, thinking, well, no one wants subscriptions and all that. But there is a portion of the population that's like, cool, give me a subscription. I'll pay for two-way messaging. I work remote. I'm in the back country. I work the pipelines and the wind farms and all those kind of things, and I need a way just to be able, communicate back to my wife. Or a lot of guys that just work a shrimp boat and they're gone, for a couple of weeks, and the sat phone bill is too high on the boat, so they'll just text message, for unlimited two-way text messaging, for a month. It's like $50. It's not a bad deal at all.
No.
And so this will track you, send two-way messages. You can send instant check-ins that are free. It's rechargeable battery, and it's on the bottom. It's got the SOS button, which will do. You can actually two-way message with the search and rescue organization that's coming to get you, so you can provide them more information. So a lot of people will see, like, the little Garmin InReaches. It's the exact same product. Our new one, though, the Bivy Mesh, which we'll start shipping next month. It's got a LoRa or long range radio inside, so you can actually create like a mesh network with other Bivy stick mesh units. So, I think we were talking before, like, if you've got like 10 boats that are going on in this fishing tournament or whatnot, you can literally create like a mesh network of these boats within a couple miles of each other. And, you just need like one boat in the middle, and that'll just keep making this mesh network bigger and bigger. But you can start a group chat with all of them using satellite. Group chat is just normal every day for us here on land.
Right.
But over satellite, group chat is really hard to do. You can see where all the boats are. If one person's having a hard time, maybe one of those Iridium satellites has just gone past and is missing, but guy up a mile has got a clear view. Like, it'll ping off to that other guy, and you'll use his satellite to get that message out. So it just makes the whole system a little bit more foolproof. So we always kind of like to think, do you want a subscription? You're a Bivy guy. You don't want a subscription? You're a PLB guy or girl. So a little bit of everything, but just as long as someone has it.
does that subscription mesh thing you just described that has the two-way communication, it would serve in place of the personal locator? It'll still send the
Yep.
SOS, send the signal, send the GPS, all of that?
Yep, exactly.
Just have that.
Yeah, so you just unflip the button underneath the red flap here that you just press. So the only difference is when you activate one of these Iridium satellite messengers, whether it's a Bivy stick or someone else's, it's going to a third-party call center. All right, and that's the main difference. That third-party call center is then reaching out to Coast Guard or Volunteer Search and Rescue or whoever and saying, hey, I've got a subscriber. This is their GPS location. They're two-way messaging me. This is going on. I can give you their number, and they will then work to initiate the rescue with that organization. With the personal locator beacons, like that whole step is just bypassed. The message just goes directly to search and rescue. And basically the way that it happens is when the signal comes back down to Earth, they will see that you're either on land or on water. And that's how they'll dictate, if it's on land, they're going to send it to the, the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center. And they will then, dispatch, could be a park ranger, volunteer search and rescue. It could be Coast Guard. They might be the closest. You never know. If it's on the water, though, it's mostly likely going to go to Coast Guard, but, it could go to the local counties, Marine sheriff or whoever, if they've got a boat. So it's kind of dictated by the land versus sea piece, but it's just direct. It's not third-party call center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I read on y'all's website that last one you had, they work with GoPro mounts. So you can mount that pretty much anywhere you put a GoPro.
Exactly. Yeah, it's nice because it's got like the little quarter 20 on the back, so like it comes with a little adapter that you can put onto and literally connects to any of the GoPro mounts, or just like tether it. It's got the some people hate it. I love it. Like it's got the little hole in the top. Just tether it to your backpack. I mean, it just sits there and it's just always there. With any of these beacons, you just want to make sure you can get it. We've had a couple like ATV rescues where they had the beacon, but it was in like the ATV, like little glove box, and like over the handlebars after they got in an accident and like excruciating pain having to crawl back to that ATV to get the beacon to push the and it's like, oh, had you just been wearing that thing, you could have just laid there and saved yourself a whole lot of pain.
Put it on.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question about the battery because you said it's 5 years. After that 5 years, what are our options with the battery? Can we get it recharged? We have to buy a new device. How does that work?
Yeah. So with the PLBs, it's a 5-year battery. With the EPIRBs, it's a 10-year shelf life on the batteries. So, with the PLBs, I always tell everyone your cheapest option is we've got like 200 battery replacement centers, all over the world. You might have, depending on where you live, like up in Biloxi, you guys should be pretty good. We've got a couple guys up in the Gulf. You just drop it off. 2 days later, they'll change the battery. Everyone thinks it's like, I run to CVS, pop a couple new, lithium batteries in my TV remote. It's not like that. It's more like a tune-up for your car, right? Our guys are trained. They're going to take the back case off. They're going to replace the gasket. They're going to, it's got a new lubricated gasket they're going to put on there. They're going to put new screws with O-rings on them. They're going to replace that battery. That battery is built right here in Fort Lauderdale at our shop. It is a certified battery for that specific unit. So you don't have to worry about like counterfeit and, there's those ones out there. And they literally will do a pressure testing to make sure that it's going to float. There's no water getting through, that it's communicating to the satellites. So it takes them usually about 3-4 hours to do like a full-blown battery replacement. And so I think with a PLB, you'll see that in the price range of $200, maybe $250, depending on where, the where and the who. It can be lower at times, but that's always going to be your cheaper option, right? With an EPIRB, you got a 10-year battery life. I always start with, what does the beacon even look like after 10 years on your boat? A lot of things look completely different after 10 years on a boat. So if your beacon has been beaten up over 10 years,
The
just
sun melts everything.
save
Yeah.
yourself the aggravation. Just go
Right.
get a new one. You got 10 years out of it. Like,
Right. Like, yeah, you got your
well done.
money for
You
it.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, it'll still be in the box and it'll still look brand new. And in those cases, yeah, we will, we'll sell battery. Our battery replacements can do those ones too. They're
Yeah.
probably closer to $300, but it's still cheaper than buying a new beacon. But I would
Well,
say if your beacon's beat up, just go new.
Do the math on 10 years, divide $300 divided by 10 years. I mean, that's not very much money, right?
Yeah,
after
it's
if you
not.
got it that long. So
But the other thing is, as fast as technology's moving, I'm sure your company in 10 years is making leaps and bounds since the last model you sold, correct?
I would like to say yes. With the EPIRBs and PLBs, like we're kind of bound by what the satellite agency lets us do.
Right.
Like I can tell you, like that return link service I was telling you about, that is not, that's been in the works for about 10 years, and it finally got approved just like last year. So it's very bureaucratic, and you've got to get, like they're in the business of saving lives just like we are. We're obviously in the business of making money and saving lives, so we want to get product out in people's hands as fast as we possibly can, and we want new technology. That's how we're going to grow our market share. But we have to do it the right way. We've got to do it to the regulations, and we need to put a good quality product on it, because at the end of the day, the ACR logo is on the front of it, so it can't be junk. So at times we kind of want to push them and be like, come on, why can't we do two-way and this and that? And they need to make sure that the satellites don't get it overloaded, that the messages aren't going to get blocked or any issues are going to come up. Like, it's and they're doing it on all sectors. We're just the leisure fishing guys. I can tell you we're working on some new cutting edge stuff for the commercial aviation industry because of the Air France and the MH, the Malaysian flight that went missing that no one's ever found. Like, how is that possible in today's age? Like, so like our next version of the ELT for the commercial airlines, it's, they're distress tracking. Something goes wrong with that plane, they're instantly turning on and pinging. So they've got to weigh all these different industries and needs, and so they just sometimes can't move as fast as companies like us want to move. But it's all for the right reasons, and we always have to kind of tell ourselves that.
Yeah, I think my second question would be, or my last question would be, the testing process. What are the numbers? How many should we do a year? How does that all evolve?
Yeah, so we tell everyone test once a month for the life of the beacon, right?
Okay.
So 12 times with a PLB, 60 tests over the 5-year life. You're looking for the green flashy, to start it, the green flash at the end. You're good. If you get a red flash at the end, it typically means you've probably either activated the beacon at some point and you've drained an hour of battery life, or you've over tested, which you would really have to over test. I mean, you'd probably have to do a couple hundred tests, and actually our software will stop you to a point when you're getting close to that 1 hour mark of used life, because we need to make sure that there is a minimum of 24 hours in there. We've got extra because we want you to do self-tests and all of that. One of the new things we did with like our EPIRBs is, because a lot of people are scared to use these things, and that's another piece where it's like, worst comes to worst, you accidentally activate it, and which is bad. But as long as you've registered it, like your phone will ring or you call the number on the beacon and be like, sorry, I was just playing with it. I was trying it out. I want to make sure I knew what to do. My bad. It won't happen again. They're fine with that. They're like, okay, just be more careful.
Yeah.
But I mean, 21 years, everyone's like, I've never tested it once in my life. And I'm like, that's not good either. I want you to play with it. I don't want you to be scared of it, because in an emergency, kind of like, East and the boys are like, well, let's just keep turning it off and turning it on. I don't know.
Right.
I want people to fully understand that. So we've actually added like an NFC antenna. So if you're not familiar with NFC, it's a little credit card chip, so you can just do that wireless tap. It was really interesting. My engineers taught me a lot on this, where I was always wondering, how does that credit card actually give there's not a battery on my credit card. But it takes the takes the power from your phone, and you can actually use your power from your phone to pull that information out of the beacon now and into the mobile app. And so, real simple. Now the mobile app that we created is pulling the beacons. So every time you do like a self test, just go do a little tap, and your phone will tell you everything, like how good your battery is, how where if you did a GNSS test, it'll tell you exactly where you did it, how many satellites were overhead. So at least it's giving you some valuable information where, like, if you're kind of like a stats junkie guy, like I just want to know how my beacon's doing, like that, it gives you more of a clue. And then while you're in the app, you can, okay, cool, let me watch a couple of YouTube videos on this EPIRB and see how do I activate it, how do I test it? So we'll be coming out with that in the PLBs in the coming years. The approval process for any of these is unbelievable. Like our last EPIRBs literally took about a year in the test lab and the approval process. Like, they were done well in advance, and it's a slow process. One thing fails, you got to start all the way over from the beginning. And then the regulatory agency is just, if an I is not dotted, like, start over. Like, it can be painful. But like I said, we know they're doing it for the right reasons, because they just want to save lives also.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Easton did ask in the comments right here, can you fly with the PLBs? You
can. Yes, you 100% can. While they do have lithium batteries in them, it's not enough to get flag. Do not put them in your checked bag, though. You got to put them in your carry-ons, because they do have the lithium batteries. So if they're in your checked bags, we have had people that got to their location and they were no longer in their checked bags. So I don't know if they can search those bags based on lithium or metal or something like that. But we've had a couple sponsors that have needed new ones because they put them in the check bag. So always carry on bag.
Yeah.
You might, especially if you're carrying like an EPIRB or something, like, you'll get some looks from the TSA officers, like,
that's a weird looking cup you got there.
Yeah.
What's with the
Did you get that at Starbucks? Yeah.
Yeah. It does look a little suspect though for an airport. Just
a big Slurpee,
in my opinion. Yeah. I got a couple more questions before we wrap things up. Really more of a statement on this one here. Our audience is fishing a lot. We do some hunting stuff as well, but like, you mentioned like on land, right? I mean, there's, whether you're a hiker, right, that could easily fall down, a cliff or whatever, or for like us, like we hunt as well, and we have hunters in the audience. Anything can happen, a tree stand incident, right? Like, it isn't just for the water, as kind of where I'm going with it when I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah, 100%. Like don't leave it on your boat, right? Like, and I've heard that comment so many times. Like, yeah, it can be an RV trip to Yellowstone with the family. Take it. Like, you just never know, where you're gonna go. I travel to the UK a lot, to the Ocean Signal Plant, and I take it with me every time I go. And I'm mostly never out of cell phone range, but it makes me feel better. It makes my wife feel better. It makes my mom feel better. It makes my boss feel better that I'm just traveling with them. But from boat to airplane to, down here, we're 20 minutes from the Everglades. Like, yeah, it's it adds a whole lot more peace of mind when you're alligator hunting out there, with knowing you got that PLB out there, because it's dark, things happen quick. So yeah, take it with you everywhere.
And this is satellite, so you don't buy one here on the coast and it only works in the Gulf of Mexico, right?
It's like everywhere. Yeah. You got a trip to the Great Barrier Reef, like, yeah, you best be bringing that with you. Like, so there's it's one satellite network, but there's 3 different constellations. There's a low Earth orbiting, so there every 45 minutes there's one overhead. No matter where you are in the world, every 45 minutes there's one overhead. And then there's a series of them that follow the equator, the geosynchronous. So they can pretty much see pole to pole exactly where you are. And the new ones are these mid-Earth orbiting. So they're always orbiting as well. They're sort of in between. So you got 3 different satellites all looking for these signals, triangulating them, grabbing the GPS, and transmitting them back to Earth. So, like, if you were in Australia, like, Australia would then get your rescue. But also, so would the U.S., who holds your registration. And Australia and the U.S. will then collaborate on, all right, this is Mikel D'Arcangelo. His registration says he was taking a trip, down there. There should be 3 other people with him, and they've got everything you need. And they execute the rescue.
Wow. See, and I didn't think about that. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. Well, I mean, we're going on a cruise. We could take it on the cruise, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So over here you got language barriers. Say you're in Japan doing the same thing, taking a cruise out of Japan. Who's going to call the emergency contacts to get other information? It'll be NOAA in the U.S. They will go do that whole process to help expedite that international rescue, and then they'll feed it back to the Japanese Rescue Coordination Center. That way, it's just a hand-in-hand partnership.
Yeah.
damn, that's cool.
And I was thinking about the two-way messaging when those pesky hurricanes come in and all the cell phones are out and no power and any of that stuff. You're still rocking and rolling with those.
It is a nice advantage of kind of going with the two-way messenger versus the one-way. But that's so real good tip if anyone has like the actual EPIRBs, because they're activated by water. Obviously you guys are Gulf Coast, we're Florida. We all know hurricane season is upon us.
Absolutely.
When you button down the hatches on your boat, we always recommend take the EPIRB off your boat. If you're not going to be on the boat and you're heading out, take the EPIRB with you, because if that boat sinks, goes, wind blows that, boat to shreds and that beacon gets wet, it'll start turning on. I forget the name of the hurricane we had last year. It was off the coast of Florida. Fort Myers got, demolished. They had like 300 EPIRBs going off. And only one of them was actually a rescue. So hurricane comes, take that EPIRB off, just do search and rescue a little bit of a favor, take it with you, keep it dry. Oh no, you've got an EPIRB with you in a hurricane. Like, not the worst thing in the world to have.
100%.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. The only other thing is we have I got two more. We have a boat show down here. I don't know if Easton and them spoke to you about. We have the Biloxi boat show. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's decent, good sized boat show that I think your product would fit well in for sure.
Yeah, I know. I think our sales manager's heading down to that one. Eastman's been talking to me about, doing some things with the show. So kind of put on him, like, tell me what you want to do, brother.
Well, we have a booth. So if there, if y'all don't want to have your own, like, Easton can definitely get in touch with us and we can have y'all set something up there. I mean, we'd love to have it as a part of ours. I mean, it's a great product,
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I was saying before, we're working on getting all 5 of the survivors, including Sarah and all their friends and everything, to come down. They're gonna do a factory tour, see how we built their beacon that saved them. I think that's gonna be the end of July. We haven't been able to do one since COVID. So I started telling everyone in the factory today, like, we're getting the tickets, they're coming. And like, you can see people just starting like, no, we haven't had survivors here in forever. Like, this is amazing. Like, it's we had a couple of years ago some off Cape Canaveral, Dad and his buddy. It was his buddy's birthday, and he took the 2 boys. I think they were like 7 and 9. Same, boat capsized, and they were on the water for 2 hours. And I mean, talk about having like 2 young kids that got rescued. I mean, all the production ladies were just bawling, and that's why we kind of come in here day after day and do what we do. And like, one of the cool things about ACR is like, I've been here 21 years, like, feels like just yesterday I started, but I'm not even close to being like one of the longest tenured people. Like, we've got people here 35 years. We had one guy 40 years. Like,
wow.
And it's not just like 1 or 2 of them. There's like 20 people in production, just, over 35 years. It's like, holy cow. Like,
that's a testament to the company for sure. Cause you don't stay somewhere for 35 years that you don't like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, 21 years here. I thought, it's like 5 years, I'll be out of there. Just 21 years later, I'm like, you could have to peel me out of this place.
You got 20 more to go, man. At least 20 more to go.
Well, last question before we end it. I know we talked about one of the things that came up in the conversation with Easton and those guys, and some of the Coast Guard groups that we are now a part of, safety groups. So thanks to you guys as well. But it's a ditch bag is what I think they call it. Do y'all sell like ditch bag and then all like bundles, right? I think it's on your Facebook page if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we do. We sell 2 different ditch bags. I wish I had one here. I don't. I'm sorry. The smallest one I think floats 15 pounds of gear, and the larger one will float like 25 pounds of gear. Like, I'm a huge ditch bag fan. Like, I tell everyone, like, when you get on that boat, like, put your wallet and your passport just in that waterproof pocket right there. Like, you don't know, like I said, if you go overboard and you get picked up by a commercial boat and they bring you back to the Bahamas or something, you're gonna have a hard time getting a credit card, paying for that hotel room, getting a new passport to get out of there. It's an ordeal. So like be smart. If you got prescription meds, like put them in there. But the best thing with like the ditch bags is like, how many times you get on a boat and your friends are like, that compartment's got the flares, the life jackets are in the back, we got a fire extinguisher, one of these hatches, and you're like,
right.
I'm a safety guy. I'm like, that just puts fear in me. I'm like, what do you mean? It's not all in one place.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the beauty of these ditch bags. Like, just load that thing up with everything you need. Like Easton, they told you like that boat went down like in record time. That is not the first I've heard of that. You'll get some of these center consoles that'll just flip over and you can sit on them the rest of the day, and great for you. Sometimes that is not the case. They go down quick. So being able to grab a bag, just worry about getting off the boat. That's all you got to worry about. So no one gets trapped or anything like that. And you've got the gear that you need. What's more peace of mind than just saying you're in charge of that bag in that console right there. That's your only job if anything goes wrong. I got an 8-year-old son. I could give him that instruction. I could still be on the radio with VHF if I needed to, and still working on him. Like, get the bag, and he's gonna have the bag. Like, it's easy, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, trying to, when you think about safety, it's just make it easy on yourself. Like, it's a $70 ditch bag. We've tried to make life easy on our website. You can buy an EPIRB with a ditch bag. You can add a couple strobe lights to it, a signal mirror. You can get ones with the E-flare. You can get an EPIRB with a PLB all in one. The price just keeps going up and up, but you save more and more.
Right.
But man, it's nice. It's nice peace of mind just being like, that's what's gonna, get me rescued. I was in West Marine this weekend, and they got some great little, safety kits too for like that new boater where you've got like the required amounts of life jackets, the flares, and the fire extinguisher and all that stuff. And I'm like, nothing tells Coast Guard you need help though. Like,
Correct.
not one thing in that whole package. It's a great little package. I tell everyone, yeah, you need it, go get it. And it's easy when you can buy it all in one bundle, but it's still not going to tell Coast Guard or anyone that you need help. Like,
yeah, you're just
the whole
floating
point of
out
it.
there hoping, you know what I mean? Floating out there waiting.
Yeah. Hope's not a great survival strategy.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I dropped a link to your Facebook page as well as your the website in the comments below.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I did. And so, like I say, I think that's super cool with the bundles that y'all do. Looking at on your website, I hate that those guys went through that, but I'm glad the outcome that they had, and I really think that it's going to help somebody, some way, shape, or form in our little community down here, because like you said, you saw the spike on your website. Like, people are sitting there going, "Holy shit!" Like,
well, you don't think about it until you need it, and you usually don't think about it until you see somebody else need it, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, let's get it." Yeah.
Yep. Or your wife will be nudging you on the couch, like, "You got one of those things, right?"
You're like, yeah, not yet, but I will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, we appreciate your time for jumping on here with us. Love what you're doing. Love the product. Like hearing the backstory and knowing you guys have been around for a while and specialize in a lot of stuff. So that's, when you buy into a brand, that's what you want to hear.
Exactly. Perfect.
So.
No, it was a pleasure being on. Hope everyone stays safe. I hope, hope we get up there and see you guys there soon, and in the meantime, like, I don't care if it's ACR or Ocean Signals, EPIRBs, just get something, everyone just needs something out there to alert. I'm not going to be selfish and be like, buy mine, just buy somebody's. I don't care.
Right.
It's think about if you didn't, you've got all those search and rescue people risking their lives to come and find you now. And, it's kind of a selfish proposition to be like, I couldn't spend that little bit of money on this kind of crazy adventure that, I'm going to spend a couple $1,000s on gas, and that little bit of money could prevent, a huge search and rescue mission just looking for me. So think about those search and rescue, those coastie guys that put their lives on the line day in and day out for all of us. Taxpayers are not, like, they still got to go out and do it and execute.
100%.
And so you just try to make their life a little bit easier. It's hopefully going to bring all those guys home too.
Love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, appreciate it again, man.
And what y'all are doing. We appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, get with us with the boat show thing. Anything we can do to help you guys get your name out there, just let us know.
Will do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, man.
Good evening.
All right. Thanks.
There we go. Man, that was a good one. ACR Artex. I love the story on the company. I didn't know. I didn't know if they were just something new. I didn't know the operation. You know, I didn't know how big they were or weren't. So to now know that it's like these guys have been around for a while. It's a real product.
And get on their website. It's a wealth of knowledge. They have videos of how to use everything. They got even on that the blippy stick or whatever it was. Like you brought up the hiking stuff. They're like people can communicate and say, hey, we're hiking this hill today. We're hiking that hill today. It's cool stuff, man.
Yeah, look, this is it right here. I've got it pulled up. You can see. I mean, it's very well done. It's got all their stuff on here. That's the product right there that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So it's legit. Go in there, read up on it, educate yourself. Like you said, there's all kind of brands out there. Just grab one. But I like what these guys are doing, and I like the story. So ACR is going to be the one I grab for sure.
For sure.
Yep. All right, we'll see y'all. What do we got tuned up next, Joe? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think the next one's going to be the 2nd of July, and it's going to be the Gulf Islands National Seashore Officer. So that's going to be a cool one too.
Okay, cool. Look, and everybody that's watching on the X platform, we appreciate everybody watching, everybody that commented as well. But the X platform, we got a large number on here, Joey. I'm not sure exactly why, but we're happy to have you. If you haven't followed us, go give us a follow on any of the platforms, X or Facebook. We also have our own app. It's the Brownwater Banter app. It's free on the App Store and Google Play. So go download that app. It's got a radio station inside of it, links to all kind of weather apps, stuff like that. And you can stay connected to all of our stuff right there. Listen to the podcast, watch the show right inside of the app. So we appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Later.